I was defending the priorities of the government, and I did it in a very loyal way. And it's normal, and it's what I had to do. But now it's more about my vision, the vision of the team that I'm building. That's what I'm going to put forward for Quebecers.
That's now former Cabinet Minister Pablo Rodriguez there during his official announcement today that he'll be stepping down as Transport Minister and Quebec Lieutenant for the Liberals to run for the Quebec Liberal leadership, the provincial leadership. Rodriguez will, however, stay on as an MP, but he announced today, to some surprise actually around Ottawa, that he'll do so as an independent, not as a federal Liberal. How significant is that decision and his loss from Cabinet? Let's bring in the front bench to talk about that. Former BC Premier Christy Clark is here. She's now a senior advisor with Bennett Jones. Former Alberta MLA and Cabinet Minister Gary Mar is with us. He's the president and CEO of the Canada West Foundation, and CTV News political analyst and former NDP leader Tom Mulcair rounds us out tonight. Hi, everybody. It's so nice to see you. Christy, I'll start with you. Is this decision, particularly the decision to sit as an independent, what's your view on the significance of that?
Well, he says he doesn't want to cause a by-election, which I guess is what he'll be doing. I suppose he could stay as a federal Liberal. It makes it awkward to run for the provincial Liberals in Quebec when you're a federal Liberal member of Parliament. So I think he was probably trying to have it both ways and save the potential for a by-election as well by maintaining his seat. I mean, that would have been the easiest thing to do in a normal circumstance. You just resign your seat, cause a by-election. Well, I mean, he's certainly been a loyal Liberal for long enough in Mr. Trudeau's cabinet that he understands if he causes a by-election, it could certainly mean the end of Mr. Trudeau. So I think he's trying to somehow figure out what turned out to be a little bit of an inelegant solution to his dilemma. But I know Tom Mulcair will have something to say about whether federal Liberal cabinet ministers should also be running for leader of provincial parties in Quebec.
Tom, yeah, I'll check in with you on that one, because the reason he gave was that it would be a costly by-election. And I'm sure in newsrooms, around Ottawa, the eyebrows were raised saying, well, costly money or costly as in cost the Liberals? Because it feels like after the Montreal by-election on Monday that the latter might be the case.
Yeah, and it's also quite clear that Pablo Rodriguez is not turning up his nose on keeping his $200,000 a year salary, even as a backbencher, independent in the House of Commons, because he doesn't have to step down. There's no law requiring it. I can tell you that here in Quebec, where I'm talking to you from right now, the commentary has been very negative about the fact that he's trying to have it both ways. He's trying to say that he's now running for the leadership of a provincial party, but that federal taxpayers are going to be paying him a salary until January, because January is when the race officially starts. But he's in the race now, and it's a bit disingenuous. I also find it stretching credulity for him to say that it's all about him trying to save money for taxpayers, don't you know, because he doesn't want there to be a by-election. Come on, it's about himself. He's taking care of himself, and people see right through that. With regard to whether or not Trudeau would get stuck with a by-election, Trudeau has 6 months to call the by-election, but he gets to choose the date of the by-election. So, there are parts of Pablo's story that don't hang together. If I might, Vassy, to Christy's question, does a former federal cabinet minister have a chance leading the Quebec Liberals? I would say slim to none. Coderre is basically already out of the race. He's got serious problems with the tax man in Quebec. And with regard to Rodriguez, it's just going to be almost impossible for him, because every time he's said or done something that was criticized or attacked by Quebec as being anti-Quebec, there's just going to be a phone book full of that stuff. And by the way, he's an intelligent, engaging, I think quite charismatic guy. He's full of energy, but I think that his chances are very, very slim.
Yeah, it's interesting because as Quebec lieutenant for the past 2 elections, Gary, he was seen as pretty integral to the Liberals' campaign in that province. And that province ended up being pretty integral to their ability to keep a minority government in 2019, in 2021. It feels like a significant loss for the Liberals going forward in that capacity, even as polls for them in every province are not great.
Look, I agree with Tom on the personal characteristics of Minister Rodriguez, but in his current ambition, it's all about political positioning, and the best position to be in is upwind from a large pile of manure, and so he's trying to have it both ways, as both Christy and Tom have said. And I think it means these are 2 depths that we've never seen before. We've never seen the depth of a cabinet minister so integral to a party, step down and step away from being a member of that party, while at the same time, we've seen a second depth that, and I think Tom alluded to this, is that Quebec voters aren't going to be sort of saying, well, oh yeah, this is a fresh start with this guy. He's no longer part of the federal Liberal Party. He's been so integral to it. I don't know how he distances himself from that sort of the downwind smell of what he's been associated with and that which is so unpopular. I mean, I think that he's just one of a long line of people who are trying to distance themselves. It's, you know, for a long time, it was just, you know, Premier Moe, Premier Smith, Premier Higgs, but slowly but surely everybody else has fallen in behind Premier Fury, Premier Ford, Premier Canoe, Premier Eby. And then you've got Jeremy Broadhurst, who has recently left. You saw the resignation of the former Labor Minister, Seamus O'Regan.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a long list, and the only guy that's running towards the fire, interestingly, is Mark Carney, and it'll be interesting to see what he's able to do and what it is that he wants out of it. I'd have to say that based on the reports that came out in the Globe and Mail and the Financial Post, maybe it's not a very auspicious start with the identification of fairly serious conflict of interest in his current role and what he does with Brookfield Asset Management.
Yeah, that's a whole other story that I'm sure we'll get to at some point. But just sort of staying on what happened today, Christy, the sort of afternoon portion of the event was that there was what people around the Prime Minister were telegraphing as a cabinet adjustment, not a shuffle, but an adjustment insofar as Anita Anand, the minister who oversees the Treasury Board, she's president of the Treasury Board, now takes on transport responsibilities. The Quebec lieutenant role goes to Jean-Yves Duclos. What do you make of the way in which the Prime Minister and his office decided to do this? The Prime Minister wasn't even there, actually, at the ceremony.
Yeah, well, sometimes you got to change your cabinet around fast. That's just the way it works. Sometimes ministers, they come and go, and I've had to do the same thing before. And I can say Anita Anand is very smart. She's very capable. She's very ethical. I think that she'll be a good person to look after a ministry that spends a ton of money, takes a lot of risk on behalf of the government, building the infrastructure of the economy. I think that's good. She understands how the economy works, that we have to get it going, that infrastructure is essential. And if we don't have it, we can't create jobs. So she's a good choice. I think sometimes it's just the nature of government. You don't always, as leader, get to be where you want. Doesn't necessarily offer a comment about the people that are getting appointed to cabinet to replace others.
Yeah, Tom, what's your read on the way this happened, the way that Minister Anand, pardon me, will assume additional responsibilities rather than bringing in anyone new or creating a bigger shuffle? I get the sense that it's on a more temporary basis, that there might be something bigger in the works down the road. What's your sense?
Could be, but I also know that this is a standard play when you're stuck. If Trudeau were to have promoted anybody from his backbenches, he would have created dozens of dissatisfied people who thought that they were next in line. And so he's just, going to a standard playbook, I agree with Christy on that point. Minister Anand, top notch, simply top notch. And so she's going to have other responsibilities that will mostly wind up being like signing documents. She's not going to be creating a lot of policy. Everybody's in caretaker mode right now. The only watchword for the Liberals right now is don't rock the boat, try not to mess up. And frankly, Anand is exactly the type of minister who will do just that. She won't rock the boat, she won't mess up, she'll do it solidly, but there won't be any innovations in policy or anything else around transport. You can be sure of that.